Welcome back. Following the weeks of xenophobic violence across the country, at least 300 displaced foreigners in Primrose and Germiston have been integrated back into their local communities. Police community leaders and local leadership are facilitating the reintegration. Government members of the Red Cross and some local churches have been helping to feed and shelter those displaced and affected by the attacks. However, at least 30 foreign nationals do not want to go back, and they wish to return to their countries. And now for more on this story, let's speak to our reporter who's right here with us, Ms. Nozintombi Miya, who covered this. Nozintombi, very good afternoon to you. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me on, Alicia.
Nozintombi, have all the foreign nationals been reintegrated back into their communities? Tell us about how that went.
Well, Alicia, not all the foreign nationals have been reintegrated back into their communities. You understand that Primrose is one of the first displacement camps where they're attempting to reintegrate the people back into the local community. We know that in Primrose there were about 366 foreign nationals that were housed there. About 150 of those were reintegrated into the community. Authorities are sort of waiting to see what the night will bring and how calm there will be an acceptance from the local people into having the foreign nationals back. And the rest of the foreign nationals that are still at the Primrose camp will then be reintegrated throughout the course of this weekend. So it's really a wait-and-see game, but they're quite hopeful that the reintegration process will go as smoothly as possible.
Nozintombi, what's happening to those who don't want to be reintegrated? Where will they be housed while they still wait for the repatriation back home, or for things to calm down for that matter?
In terms of the processes, what authorities have done, they have officials from Home Affairs, they've also got officials from Social Development who have been documenting each and every single foreigner that has been at the camp. There are about 30 foreign nationals who've said they want to return back to their families, back to their countries. We know that of those 30, the main three countries that they want to go back to is Zimbabwe, Malawi and Mozambique. And what was quite interesting was speaking to this one Zimbabwean gentleman. His name was Promise. And he said to us he's actually just had about enough of the strife, of the anger and the violence meted against him by South Africans. And he said that he was here in 2008 when the first wave of xenophobic attacks had happened. And he felt that at that time he could still make a living, he could still try and live with the South Africans, the locals in his community. But he's had enough this time, and he says he wants to be on the first bus back to Zimbabwe, and that was quite sad. An indictment against some of our people.
Nozintombi, let's expand on that. Do some of the foreigners that are actually being reintegrated back to their communities feel safe in doing so?
The most pressing concern for the foreigners who are being reintegrated is an economic concern. They want to go back to their shacks, back to their living conditions, so they can go back to work and get money and feed their families.
Absolutely.
It's not an option for them to go back to their countries because they will not be able to get the money that they are making now in South Africa. So the most important thing for them is to go back into the community, no matter whether it's safe right now or it is the best possible option. But what authorities have been saying to them, they've been saying, we've spoken to locals since last week, and locals on the main have said that they do want the foreigners back and they are willing to live peacefully side by side with them and not resort to violence. Authorities, what they have said, which I thought was quite interesting, was they blamed criminal elements intimidating locals into not wanting the foreign nationals back. But as the situation stands, most of the 150 foreign nationals have said, in as much as they may have been afraid to a certain extent to go back, they are willing to go back and they are willing to pick up the pieces of their lives.
That's some progressive news, Nozintombi. Who oversaw this whole process this morning?
We saw quite a number of government bodies coming together. We saw that there was quite a large contingent of people from Home Affairs. We saw that there was quite a number number of people from social development department. We also had the mayor of Ekurhuleni coming in, as well as the minister of social development, and a lot of local churches, as well as the Red Cross. So it was quite a large contingent of people who came together to help house, to help give shelter and food to those 300 or so people who were displaced. It was one of the more positive signs of our democracy, where you saw a large number of either private or public bodies coming together and saying, we will not take this, we will not stand for violence or brutality against our fellow brethren, and we will work together to try and make their conditions as eased as possible.
Nozintombi, quickly, before I let you go, you mentioned that it's a wait-and-see game now, but are they going to leave the police and troops there to try and monitor the situation while we wait for the lull?
I spoke to the mayor of Ekurhuleni and I asked him, has the army been deployed to Primrose? And what he said is that the level of violence that they'd seen was not to the extent of what had been seen in 2008 and what has been seen in Jeppia and in Alex. And he felt confident for now that their local police would be able to contain any possible outbreaks of violence. For now, he said they're not asking the army to come in. They will be deploying police in and about the area, the different squatter camps that are in that Primrose area. And they're looking to the local leaders, the community leaders, to make sure that they're speaking to community members. Community members are aware of the fact that there is this process of reintegration. But to cut a long story short, the biggest point was that it's a wait-and-see game. Tonight really will be the most telling time to see whether or not the integration process takes or it doesn't.
Thank you so much for being with us here, Nozintombi. That's our reporter, Nozintombi Miya, who covered the reintegration process in Primrose.